Okay, folks, we are live on Quantum Leap on January 26th, and Cory and I are excited to have a famous photographer in the Bay Area with us, Shoey Sindel, who has done, has an amazing portfolio. She's actually done a recent round of photos for Cory and his family, which I'll let Cory talk about, but it's a very kind of down to earth, warm kind of vibe. And I'm probably not giving it justice because I've only seen kind of a small fraction of the photos, but I really appreciate photography and how she works and some of the entrepreneurs, but also the family kind of feel that she's done. So just a real range of photography. But before we get to Shoey, I did want to just ask Cory how you are today, Cory.
Doing great. Thank you, David. We've been focusing on, launching our Lift program for the new year and getting more people involved. It's been great.
Okay, good.
How about you? How are you doing, David?
I'm good. Glad to see you guys. I know we were catching up a little bit and had to get the broadcast going so we can get back to work. But I'm excited to have Shoey and to be talking about photography. It's always kind of a special thing for me to kind of learn from people who have a lot more experience than I do in the field and just different niches and things. So, and I really liked your shirt too. That was another highlight of the warm up there too, Cory. So.
It's definitely one of my favorites, but I got to get the right light for it. Yeah, any of these shirts. So I got new lights, and so everything is kind of blending together nicely.
Nice. And I was complimenting Shoey on her natural background too, that she actually has some images and she actually took the time to put together an impressive portfolio of some slides in her work. So we're going to get to that. But with that, I wanted to just introduce Shoey Sindel and have her just tell us how she is today and a little bit about your story and, how you, your career in photography.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be on your show. And I love that you think I'm famous. That's great. So, yeah, I'm here in my studio in Berkeley. My background, just to give you a very quick rundown, I used to be a psychiatric social worker, but I really felt the need and the pull to create something and do something artistic, and photography just pulled me. So this is something I learned when I was working with Cory, actually, at one of his workshops. I'll just tell you a small story about what photography means to me. When I was very, very young, just an infant, my dad was the family photographer, so he was always taking pictures, and therefore he was in very few of them. But when I was 2, he died. And there were very few family photos of him. And the only ones that were in my family's view were a wedding picture, which was very stiff because apparently the wedding photographer was drunk and there were no good photos. So my parents took a photo at the studio. And then there was a picture of my dad and my family in front of his airplane. And his airplane, to me, was like this symbol of so much fun and excitement. And I learned a lot about my dad in my mind through these photos. I thought, wow, he's an adventurous guy. And I just dreamed of the life I could have had with him. And subsequently, I asked my mom years and years later to tell me a bit about who he was, like as a person. And she had said, well, what do you imagine? And I told her what I imagined, just really based on what I imagined through these photos. And she said that I nailed it. And so, first of all, this is my dad's camera. And I think this is just one of my most special relics. But it told me that photography is more than just taking pretty pictures. It's really about creating somebody's heritage and their legacy. And it speaks about who people are, who they love, who loves them, and really what their essence is. So I come to photography both as an artist, but really as a historian in a way, to create people's legacy. And I really strive to getting people's real authentic selves, whether it's a business portrait or a family portrait, so that, you know, they'll be able to really, people will be able to read who they are in their heart. So that's my story and how I came to photography.
Great, thank you. I love that, seeing that Minolta camera. You know, I actually collect vintage lenses, and I have a whole set of Minolta lenses, which, you know, Sony bought out Minolta. So I kind of like that look, how even some of the modern lenses have a little vintage feel to it on the Sony sensors. So it's kind of a,
I like that this weighs like 10 pounds. It's the real thing.
yeah, great. You know, I am impressed with the depth that is in the field of photography and the different niches, that it's really a lifetime of learning, and nobody perfects it. It's just, we can all learn, even if you've been doing it for 20 or 30 years or however long, we're still kind of learning, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, also about how you kind of show people, and, you know, I really like the family shots of Cory's family, which we're gonna, I think you have those with you, which I'm looking forward to seeing again. But I did want to ask you about a kind of a challenge during COVID. I know certain businesses have been very impacted during COVID, and yours is definitely one of those who's kind of bear more of the brunt, having a brick and mortar store. Could you just tell us a little bit about how you adapted to COVID and kind of how you're coping now, or pivoting, or
yeah.
what?
Yeah, I mean, being a people photographer made it really hard, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when I, plus everybody else, was pretty freaked out about how to maneuver. I did a couple of things. One was I did a lot of volunteer work, and I'm still doing some. You know, I just go outside and take pictures of people with masks on, just because it made me feel good and I wanted to share something with people. But I've also worked with the Berkeley Food Network, and I'm going to do some photography for them. And I've also worked with this organization that's building tiny houses for homeless youth, and I've been doing a little photography with them. I also was selling puzzles, which I thought was a brilliant idea, since everybody was home alone taking puzzle, you know, doing nothing. So I made puzzles of these photos I took on a African safari I did last year. And those were wildly popular. I also have been doing product photography, which is not my usual thing, but now I'm a product photographer, and making, you know, stupid little videos on YouTube. So that's what I've been doing.
Good. And I don't think they're stupid. I know we're kind of, can be hard on ourselves, but, you know, I've just found that you can, sometimes the videos that seem the stupidest are the most popular, you know, so
Yeah.
keep up the good work there. And we did want to take a look at, just while you're pulling up your portfolio, I'm going to give you screen sharing privileges. I don't know if I'm curious about how the process of you know, enrolling somebody who wants photos, like what Cory, for example, said that he wanted with his family photos, and then we'll take a look at what you ended up with. So that was just one thing. I just think that the process of how people work is so important in photography, and kind of shows also what makes you unique as a photographer, which Cory and I have talked a little bit about, that we see you as having a, you know, a great why and story there. You know, Cory mentioned this. So, yeah. And Cory, if you want to jump in too, feel free to take it from here. Yeah.
Should I do the screen share?
Yeah, let's have her share first. Yeah.
Sure. see that?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. This was actually a selfie. I don't really support people doing their own branding photos, but for me, it worked out. Okay. Did you want to say something, Cory?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, the first photos that I wanted to share were actually of Cory, and I've known Cory and his wife for quite a long time, and they have this beautiful little kiddo, and they wanted photos of her life. So I've been actually doing a lot of outside photography during COVID. Normally I do a lot of studio, but this seems like a smart, good way to do it. So I've been going to people's houses or parks where we feel like we can do it. I also have a backyard at my studio, so we've been doing photography. But this was a very typical, what I thought was fun family portrait session at Cory's house. I believe that it should be a wonderful experience, because when you have a good experience with your photo session, then that actually gets attached to the session. If I took beautiful photos, but you hated being with me, you would not like your photos. So, I try and make it a warm and easy and fun experience where we just try lots of different things and come up with, a nice portfolio. So here she is, and here's just a few photos of, life at home.
Life on the Knott Ranch.
Yeah, that's good. I love the chicken. And that was an unplanned, spontaneous moment, but I think it's so sweet and real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, did you want to say anything, Cory, about the experience that you guys had with me?
Sure. We invited Shoey out to the property that we live on, and it's kind of an interesting place. It's kind of a unique bay forest with a creek and all kinds of just interesting places to do things. But of course, lighting is, got to be special and all kinds of other things. So she really worked with us to kind of move around the property, do a lot of fun pictures, and just to capturing the right moments. And there's a lot of opportunity for moments, but getting them is always complicated. And Shoey did such a great job, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know, time went by really fast, and I'm not really thrilled about going into a portraiture studio. So I thought this was just a really fun opportunity to get our pictures, and working with Shoey was a blast.
That's so great. I was really actually, I loved working with you guys, and I was so happy that you chose to print. In fact, all my clients, family portrait clients, print, because I think it's so incredibly important. I've had some computer problems, and I have backups of my backups, but if I hadn't, I would have lost all my photos. But I have 100-year-old photos on my wall that are going to stay forever. So the importance of printing for me is really critical. And I'm glad you guys have your walls decorated.
Yeah, we just did.
Yeah, if you don't mind, should we just kind of give us the quicker version of some of these other ones, just because we do want to get to more of your story and your uniqueness as a photographer. Of course, you're welcome to share that as you get to some of these, but I just wanted to give kind of a flavor for like the range that you have, and not kind of analyze these too much, but just to kind of do a little reel for you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I have a really wide, these were almost all taken during the pandemic. So here's just a friend client of mine, some studio portraits. Some just cute little kiddos. So this is the portrait photography that I did for a spa. I've been doing dating photos, online dating, online everything during a pandemic is so important now to have good visuals, right? Because nobody's meeting in person anymore. So you need a really compelling set of photos to engage with people. If you have ugly or poorly executed photos, people really, it's not a turn on. Here's some other dating photos I took. So I also do a lot of business portraits, both environmentally and in the studio. So this is just sort of showing the difference between a clean background and somebody in their environment. This is a realtor, so we got her vibe going there, inside and outside. Of course, this was pre-pandemic when people could actually touch each other. And then here's some branding photos. The photos really can tell stories, and people who use social media a lot need a portfolio of compelling images that are not just looking at, not just a beautiful headshot, but they need stuff to tell their stories. So I engage with my clients. We make up a big shot list. I find out what their story is, what they want to communicate with their audience. And then we just goof around. It's not really goofing around, but we go through lots of different emotional experiences and play and get a full variety so that they have a full portfolio of their images. Here's just a dental office that I took for their website. This is pediatric dental, so it was a fun way to show for the kids how the bear could get dental treatment. And there's Lisa Mazer again. And then last but not least, here's a team. These are lawyers, so they needed to look badass and smart and compelling and engaging. And I think that's what we got.
Yeah, very nice. Just leave this shot up for 1 second, if you don't mind. I just love the kind of angle and that kind of background and the posing. So there's just so much that goes into one photo like that. And very impressive shot. And I know some of those people, of course, like Lisa, those photos are great. Where it's not a headshot, it's almost like a portrait from kind of the legs up. So it's more of a space there. And I did want to just turn it over to Cory for any comments. And he had some questions too for more things about you and your story.
Okay.
Yeah, no comments on the pictures. Thank you. That was a good run through. You were talking about doing fun little videos. Gail and I put one up of our parrots singing, and it's already got thousands of hits. And so those dumb little videos are the ones that seem to go the furthest. Oh, that's right. Yeah, attracts a lot of people. So. And I'm going to ask you what makes you unique as a photographer. And you already kind of gave us you gave us your why. And I am very proud of the fact that I am the one who helped you pull that out and make it a story, behind you. And, and that's how I help a lot of my clients is create that why. But what else would you say makes you unique as a photographer?
I think
Shoey, if you don't mind, could you just stop the share here so we can get you full screen instead of the portfolio. Sorry to interrupt.
How do you do
that?
Look at the top of the screen. Yeah, it should say stop share.
Oh, yeah, there you are. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Okay, so what makes me unique as a photographer? Maybe because I was a social worker, or maybe I was a social worker because I think one of my gifts is to be able to engage with people and to make people feel at ease. When you're getting photographed, it can be a very unnerving experience for a lot of people. I'm asking them to be very vulnerable with me, to show me their real selves. And most people find that working with me is very comfortable, even if they come in scared out of their minds. So yeah, I think that's part of my gift. Also, I know my craft very well. I know lighting, I know posing, and, I can arrange people in space very well. So I think what makes me most unique is my love of my clients and the mutual relationship we create.
I know Cory was interested in one thing that Cory really helped me with, and that I see it in your business, is this process of kind of discovering your why and then how to communicate that. Could you just talk a little bit about that process with Cory and kind of what your why is and how you see that as important to your business?
Can you say that one more time?
We were just, or Cory, do you want to ask that? I might have packed it together too tightly, but we were just wanted to kind of go back to your process in working with Cory in terms of the discovery of kind of like your why for photography. And you mentioned it at the beginning for those who may forget, but I just think one thing I really see in kind of your story and why we wanted you to come on was, the uniqueness of your why and just how you came up with that. I'm trying to just unlock that for other entrepreneurs who maybe kind of don't know what their why is, or they don't think they know, and how you were able to find that.
Oh, how I was able to come up with my why? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Oh, golly. Well, I did this really great workshop with Cory and Gail, and we were looking at our emotional connection to photography. And I remember just bursting into tears, like, oh my God, I know why. And, I think it was because of my dad and the story of the importance of photography, that it's not just something pretty, but it's like super deep. It's an important communication to other people as well as to yourself. And I think I carry that through with everything I do, even if it's a headshot, the importance is that you're wanting to connect with somebody. It may not be your family, but it's your business community. And having the authentic self come through and what you value shine through in your photo is really what I'm after.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Very, very well put.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, David, for asking that. I appreciate that. That's something, again, as I said, I work with my clients on. So if you'd like to be like Shoey or David and really have your why, that's something I can, have a quick conversation with about to see how deep you'd like to go with that.
Actually, Cory, I think that changed the way I view my business. So that was like the hugest thing that I ever went through.
Yeah, it often is. And it was definitely for Gail and I too, when we went through it. So that's why we share it with so many others. So who would you say are your ideal clients?
My ideal clients are, whether they're for personal portraits or business portraits, people who really value photography. They value the experience. That they are willing to invest in something that will be important to them, and that they're willing to fully engage with me through the process, which, sometimes can be pretty quick, and sometimes it could be very lengthy, just depending on what we're doing. I especially love working with business groups, whether they're doctors, lawyers, bankers, tech, so that they can have a consistent, fantastic look that really talks about who they are. And I'm looking for people who want to do dating, because I think that's just something I do well, and it's fun. And yeah. So even during the pandemic, I can do indoor photography in my studio, as well as we can go outside and find a good environmental space.
Great. So did you have anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I just want to share my appreciation for you guys.
Thank you.
And I would absolutely love to speak to anybody who has questions. Feel free to give me a call through Facebook or through my website.
I can definitely recommend Shoey. I think she'd be a lot of fun to work with. And I am in no position or interest in dating, but I think if I were, it would make a lot of sense. You know, it's different than a headshot, right? You know, some people get very severe, but I love the dating pictures that you had. I think that, you know, I have some friends who are dating, and I'm thinking I should recommend them to you. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
It's a hard time to do that, especially because you can't really meet people in person anymore. So.
Well, it's all about, you know, the first picture. If your first picture is terrible, which I've seen a million terrible ones, your chances of getting that phone call are not so good. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks, Shoey. I mean, I really see that in your work, you know, your awareness of photography and the power of photography, and this connection of the why, and the why that we can see in our photos is a very rare thing, and kind of the range that you use it for, you know, business, portraits, family photos. So you really have that unique character kind of comes out in the photos. And I know that the role that you had in bringing that out. So it's very great to have you on and to hear more about you. And, you know, you're there right there in Berkeley. So folks in the East Bay area, reach out to Shoey. And, you know, Cory, just by having you on, a number of folks said, I know that we're so happy that you were coming on, and look forward to hearing this episode. So,
you know, I also have family in LA and San Diego, and I'm going to be traveling down there. So I did a bar mitzvah down there this pandemic. So I'm happy to meet with people in the Southland as well.
Gotcha.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, good. Well, we'll end it there. We'll put the links in the chat. And thanks so much, Cory and Shoey, for making it another great episode of Quantum Leap.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Shoey.
Thank you.